My name is Gabriela Coletta Zapata, District 1 City Councilor, and I'm the Chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Government Operations. Today is July 29th, 2025. The exact time is 2:07. This hearing is being recorded. It is also being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-tv and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and FiOS Channel 964. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.go@boston.gov and will be made a part of the record and available to all councilors. Public testimony will be taken at the end of this hearing. Individuals will be called on in the order in which they signed up to testify and will have 2 minutes. If you're interested in testifying in person, please add your name to the sign-up sheet near the entrance of the chamber. If you're looking to testify virtually, please email our Central Staff Liaison at Megan, MEGHAN, Kavanaugh, KAVANAGH, @boston.gov for the link, and your name will be added to the list. Today's hearing is on docket 1277, petition for a special law regarding an act relative to the City of Boston, certified emergency telecommunicators. This matter was sponsored by Councilors Ruth C. Louis-Jean, Brian Worrell, and Councilor Flynn, and was referred to the committee on June 25th, 2025. Today, I am joined by my colleagues in order of arrival, Council President Ruth C. Louis-Jean and Councilor Ed Flynn. And before we go to the panel, who I will introduce shortly, I'll now pass it to the lead sponsor for any opening remarks, as well as Councilor Flynn. Councilor Louis-Jean, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you so much for hosting this so expeditiously. And I want to thank everyone involved in making sure that we could be here today, our dispatchers and call takers, BPD operations leadership, our unions, and the administration. First and foremost, I want to thank our 911 dispatchers and call takers for the work that you all do every single day. There are people who manage emergency communications, collect vital information, give guidance, and often help de-escalate crises over the phone, all the while coordinating real-time responses across police, fire, and EMS. That is public safety work, and you all are first responders, as our Mayor Michelle Wu has declared, and as is important for us to emphasize. It is complex, stressful, and often traumatic, and it is performed in the service of getting our residents help fast. I had to call 911 last week at an event in Roxbury when a woman, someone fell on her foot, and it was a really, really dangerous situation. And the way in which the call was taken and handled and EMS was arrived was really quite exemplary. So I just want to thank everyone and want to continue to keep her in our thoughts. BPD's Operation Division is the city's primary hub for receiving, transmitting, and dispatching the calls that keep Boston safe, and the people who do this work follow an extensive regime of training, education, and certification. Today's petition is about those certified telecommunicators under the state 911 standard. Right now, these professionals get labeled as clerical. That label doesn't fit the work, the training, or the risk profile of this role. This is about fairness and about acknowledging the scope and stress of the job. This body in the city has supported similar petitions in the past, whereby school police officers were recognized that when duties are public safety in nature and when training, responsibilities, and the lived realities of the job align with first responder work, reclassification is a matter of fairness and respect. Our goal should be to bring that same clarity and fairness to 911. So I thank everyone for being here. I know one of the things that we're going to want to discuss is the numbers, and I know that the retirement board is still working on getting us those exact figures. My office has preliminary did some back of the napkin math on the addition to our pension liabilities, but we look forward to fully reviewing that. But thank you everyone for being here. And again, most thank you, our biggest thank you here to our dispatchers and our call takers. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman President, for your leadership in this in bringing this forward. Councilor Flynn, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the city officials and administration team that is here. 911 dispatchers, also known as our public safety telecommunicators, they manage our emergency and non-emergency communications. They play a critical role in public safety, collecting vital information, offering medical guidance, helping de-escalate crisis, coordinating real-time responses. I also, before I go forward, I also want to acknowledge my former colleague and friend that did an incredible job working and supporting the operators was City Councilor Michael Flaherty. These professionals are currently misclassified, as the council president mentioned, under both state and federal systems as clerical workers. That does not reflect the complexity of their job, the stress of their job, the danger associated with their role. I also have been there visiting with them many times, as recently as a few months ago, and have seen the difficult job, but the professional job that they do under very stressful, difficult environments. I also worked with them when I was a probation officer for 8 years at Suffolk Superior Court. Know how important they are, and they're our neighbors, they're our family members, friends. They're active in our community. The misclassification, I'm really looking forward to that discussion. I know the retirement aspect of it as well. When I was a probation officer, I was classified in Group 2. But in my opinion, people might disagree with me, but I think these telecommunication operators, 911 operators, should be classified as Group 4. I know the difference between Group 2 and Group 4 and Group 1. As I said, I was in Group 2. But in my opinion, as an expert in this field, as a probation officer, I think they should be classified as Group 4. This will significantly impact their retirement. But I also know it's about respect. It's about showing respect for the men and women that work this job during Christmas, during Thanksgiving, during Easter, when their kids are having a birthday, and they're handling difficult calls. And then after their assignment, they might be forced to work another 8 hours. They might not be able to go home to their kids' rehearsal or recital. So I'm here to advocate for these workers, these professional workers, and in my opinion, I think they should be classified as Group 4. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. We've also been joined by co-chair, or vice chair, excuse me, but also sometimes co-chair, Ben Weber. Thank you for joining us. And I want to thank my colleagues, again, for bringing forth this legislation. Just want to thank the many 911 dispatchers that live in my district. Thank you, everybody, for your bravery and your work in a very stressful situation. We are here to consider the long overdue changes for the reclassification of 911 dispatchers as public safety employees. I realize that there was an executive order that happened under this mayor, and we thank her for that. This home rule petition is the meaningful and substantive change to reflect it in their retirement benefits, and I think it is necessary. We have seen legislation like this before in the council in 2015 and 2019. Actually want to shout out Councilor Baker at the time, who had put this forward for our school resource authority officers. So just really looking forward to the conversation, and certainly have some questions as it relates to some of the numbers that we'll see at the retirement board, and making sure that we are demonstrating fiscal responsibility throughout this, while also ensuring that we are providing the justice that our 911 dispatchers deserve. So with that, I will, we've also been joined by Councilor Fitzgerald. Councilor Fitzgerald, do you want to have an opening statement at all? Okay, very well. I will pass it over to the panel. I'll first introduce Lou Mandarini, who's the Senior Advisor for Labor here, and that is not your exact title, and I apologize that I am butchering that, so feel free to correct me after the fact. Superintendent Sharon Doughton, Bureau of Administration and Technology from BPD, who is with us virtually. We also have Tom McKeever, President of SEIU Local 888. Thank you for joining us. Neil O'Brien, who's the Senior Business Representative of SEIU Local 888. We also have Melinda Santos here, who is a BPD dispatcher. Thank you so much. And Michael Shackford, who is another BPD dispatcher. Thank you. I'll now pass it over to Lou for any opening remarks you may have.
Thank you, Councilor, Chair, Council President Louis-Jean, Councilors Flynn and Weber and Fitzgerald. Thanks so much for the opportunity to testify today. I think rather than cram everything into an opening statement, I think I'll leave a lot of what I have to say for the questioning period. But suffice to say, when we came into office, the 911 Operations Center was a place that had a lot of problems. We were facing a lot of challenges. We were facing sort of folks being stuck on hold for a long time and other problems from the employee standpoint. We were having a lot of people forced in on overtime. There was a lot of dissatisfaction, an enormous amount of turnover. A lot of things were sort of going in the wrong way, and it was the culmination of a lot of changes that needed to be made all at once. I'd venture to say we've done a lot of things in collective bargaining in the administration to work with our labor partners and our city unions to make things better. But I don't think there's any single place that we've done more than with respect to the 911 Operations Center. That's both at the bargaining table with Local 888, at the bargaining table with some of our sworn unions. As you say, the executive order denoting these folks as first responders, some work at the Residency Commission with respect to giving folks a residency waiver so that we could guarantee that we have people in the budgeted positions. So all of that stuff is stuff that we'll be glad to detail and talk about here when we get into the meat and potatoes of this hearing. But thanks so much for the opportunity to talk about the work we've done. And I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you very much. Let's see. Should we have the president of SEIU 888 go next?
Absolutely.
You have the floor.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate thank you very much to the Committee of Operations on behalf of holding this hearing. Thank you, Council President Louis June, for being our chief sponsor on behalf of this home rule petition. And thank you to the rest of the councilors here today. Just as Mr. Mandarini had mentioned, we've come a long way on behalf of forging and developing a partnership with BPD as it relates to, we need a lot of work related to operations, but through the bargaining process, we brought some significant wins on behalf of our dispatchers and call takers and under the umbrella of operations. And we continue to, we look forward to the opportunity to the next round of bargaining. We're doing some special things together. I'd like to sincerely thank the mayor. 2 years ago, April 14th, on the anniversary date of, the Boston Marathon bombings, by way of executive order, she recognized our folks as first responders at BPD operations, and in the spirit of dignity and respect, that was tremendous for our members to experience and have such a thing bestowed upon this hardworking group. I do have some comments for public record, but I can certainly leave it for towards the end of the discussion here today.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Michael or Melinda, do either of you want to provide a window into your world and just talk about your day-to-day as a 911 dispatcher?
My name is Melinda Santos, and I've been with the department for 24 years as a first responder, as a dispatcher. I'm here today because I started to look into our retirement plan, and I discovered that after 24 years of being with the department and working 8 to 16-hour shifts, and going through situations where, I've had officers shot while I was working, I've had children killed while I was working, I've had family killed while I was working, and you continue to work through all that. I found that giving 100% after 24 years, if something was to happen and I was forced to retire, I would only be walking away with 16%. 16% of my retirement after giving 24 years and 100% of my time. So that became very disheartening for me. And I realized that the fight that they're putting into, the fact that our voices are even being heard is greatly appreciated at this point. I hope that it's something that the council and the city and the state will, take into consideration. You mentioned the holidays. During the holidays, everyone's home with their families, and we're there 8 to 16 hours. No one thinks past that. These are like stressful times. The level of stress, I know that the city is always talking about the crime rate, how the crime rate has gone down. And I will admit that over the years, being there 24 years, the crime rate has gone down. It's great. However, our stress level has not. The stress level continues to rise, and we would appreciate anything that the city can do for us as far as like that retirement rate. Like I said, after 24 years of being there and giving 100%, and to be rewarded back with 16% if something was to happen to myself or to my family today and I was forced to retire, I mean, it's very disheartening. And there's no way that I can continue to encourage younger people to want a job. I've had parents come up and ask me, do you think you can help, how can I guide my child into a position with the Boston Police Department or, within the city? I started at 21 years old. I gave over half of my life to this department. There's no way at this point that I can continue to encourage, younger people to go ahead and apply for it, knowing that this is what's going to happen with them once they, as they get older. But again, thank you for your time. I appreciate the consideration that you guys are giving to us.
Thank you so much for being here, Melinda, and being able to provide. We're really grateful.
Thank
that
you.
You're here to
I
provide
appreciate you.
perspective and
Thank you.
insight. We'll go to Michael next, and then we also have Superintendent Doughton on Zoom, and we'll go to her after Michael.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing us to be here, and I appreciate the time that you've given us. I've worked for the city for nearly 20 years in the capacity of a call taker and a dispatcher, much like Melinda. I also am the unit president, and I represent the nearly 100 members of the Boston Police Operations Division. Our call takers are the eyes and the ears of the police officers before they walk through that front door. And without them, the officers' lives are in jeopardy. Each call taker roughly takes, in a 40-year career, about 700,000 calls. That's 700,000 calls from friends and family, from relatives that you may have. In addition to that, they're also forced to work anywhere between 8 and 16 hours, and sometimes as much as 18. We work in a job where there is zero margin for error. Unlike any other profession, people make mistakes. But when we make mistakes, we understand that lives are at stake. People are counting on us to be at our best. We need to be at 100%, 100% of the time. And I'm here today because I believe that our retirement is, as you said, Councilor Flynn, miscategorized. We need to be in a different group. We can't continue on the way we are. We have, many of our employees don't make it to get to the 80%. It's, in this field, it's unrealistic. And very few of our employees have made it to 80%. And when they do, their lifespan after that is anywhere between 5 and 9 years. They've given their entire life to public safety, to the safety of the city and their residents, and only to retire with 5 to 9 years to spend with their loved ones after they've given everything they've had to the city. And I believe it's time that we change that.
Thank you, and thank you again for being here and providing your perspective. We'll go to Superintendent, excuse me, I don't have it in front of me. Doughton next.
Good afternoon. I am Superintendent Sharon Doughton, Chief of the Bureau of Administration and Technology. The Operations Division, or the 911 Call Center, plays a critical role in delivery of police services to the communities of Boston. The Operations Division is staffed with a combination of sworn and civilian personnel. Civilian call takers answer the calls from the constituents, and civilian dispatchers directs police response to the field. There are also a number of civilian support staff who assist with follow-ups regarding different types of calls for service: tow line, missing persons unit, warrants, and stolen cars. There is a civilian director of the Operations Division, in addition to numerous sworn supervisors and a deputy superintendent commander. Together, these dedicated staff do a great job ensuring the emergency calls placed to 911 are handled effectively, professionally, in a timely manner. We have made significant strides in recruiting and rehiring for the positions over the years. However, there are still some vacant positions. I look forward to answering the questions from the council regarding the work done by the Operations Division. If there are detailed questions that I cannot answer today, I will be sure to follow up and get back to the council with the requested information. I thank you for your time at this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, Superintendent Doughton. I will now pass it to lead sponsors for questions, and then my colleagues, and then I will also have a few questions depending on what they ask. I'll first go to lead sponsor, Councilor Louis-Jean.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you again for holding this hearing, and thank you to everyone for being here. Apologies, my voice, I've been losing it, so if it's coming in and out, I apologize. Just wanted to focus a little bit on sort of the reclassification issue at first. Have there been other jurisdictions in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, maybe I direct this question to you, Tom, that have been successful in reclassifying from Group 1 to Group 2, as we're trying to do here?
There hasn't been currently at the moment, but we felt as though taking the pathway for a home rule petition would certainly, and with our partnerships with other unions in the Commonwealth,
Yep.
We're looking in some of the larger cities in Massachusetts, we can partner with NAGE and other unions that provide representation for dispatchers and take this pathway for home rule. We look forward to the opportunity to work with our chief sponsor, Senator Mike Rush, and we're looking for an additional representative on the House side to submit when we're successful in the pathway for home rule.
Thank you, and I also agree when we're successful here. I think some of you touched on it, but how does recognizing dispatchers as Group 2 support retention of seasoned telecommunicators and the professionalism of the role? And I also, I think it was you, President McKeever, who made it very clear that thank you to the city for the work this mayor has already done in sort of recognizing the vital role as public safety officials, and this is just getting us there. I visited, I know a number of my colleagues have visited time and time again over on Tremont Street, sort of, and seeing the work that our dispatchers and our call takers are doing, and the fact, as you were stating, Melinda, aren't able to get birthdays off, aren't able to get that sick time, are really probably some of our most necessary employees. But we have had staffing shortages, we've had morale issues, all of these issues that have affected our 911 operators, our dispatchers and call takers. Can you sort of talk a bit about how this will help alleviate some of those issues?
You want to take this question?
Sure. Thank you. As you've heard, Neil O'Brien from SEIU Local 88, as you've heard Melinda attest to the fact that younger people are approaching and asking about vocations and employment at the Boston Police Department Operations Division, and it's just not as attractive as it once was, with all the items that were stated previous by the people doing the actual job. The amount of hours, the stress. I would have to remind the committee that from looking at the group of workers from my standpoint, representing them for over approximately a decade, there's a lot of, it's clearly the most stressed civilianized position in the city of Boston. And that, that we know that, after a large event, cortisol builds up in their heart and they're wound up, and it's hard to unwind from that. And they take these things home to their family. And so, to answer your question, Council President, I think that because of these items and because of where they currently stand in the pension status, I think that the job does not seem as attractive as it once was, and we would like that to change.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about, and it could be anybody, a little bit about the mandatory overtime that our dispatchers and call takers are forced to take?
We were short-staffed for a very long time, and obviously through a partnership with the mayor's office, we were able to kind of bump those numbers up a little bit. We're not where we need to be, but we're well on our way. There still are times where we're forced because of low staffing, sick calls, regular vacation time, that we go short, and we need other employees to stay for an extra 8-hour shift. That's, and I know that we're, again, clarified as clerical, but that doesn't happen in most clerical positions. We're not asking most clerical positions to stay for an extra 8 hours. And a lot of times this is happening minutes before your shift is to end. So we're being asked to stay for an extra 8 hours, 10 minutes before the end of our shift. And it's hard to encourage people and get people to want to do this job when what we're asking of them is, hi, work 40 plus years, don't spend any time with your family, oh, and you won't have weekends off.
Right. Or holidays.
Or holidays. And sorry, but Christmas comes and I know you want to be with your children to open up Christmas presents, but you're going to have to be here. And that's a hard sell.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it off so that my colleagues can, with chairs and timing, so that my colleague, oh, you are, okay. I have time, I have 40 seconds left, okay. Can you talk a little bit about, and I just want to say again, to Melinda and to Michael, thank you for the work that you do every single day. There's so many, I've had so many conversations with some of our 911 dispatchers and call takers, and I know the extreme duress under which you are working, and just want to show you, we're doing this to show you how much we appreciate you.
Thank you.
But if you could talk a little bit about why has there been sort of this reluctance to move from group 1 to group 2? And, my office has done a little back of the napkin math to see what the math would be. And we're not talking about a large subset here. We're talking about a head count of 94 in operations, a funding schedule, 5 years remaining level amortization. We need to get the exact numbers, but our back of the napkin math does not seem to be an exorbitant amount for a very small targeted population. And we know that EMS has the same issue and fire has the same issue. So what has been the reluctance to making this leap from group 1 to group 2?
Well, Council President, on top of the representation that we provide for BPD and BPD operations, we also provide representation for state police and emergency 911. So with the successes that we're hoping to have here in the city, and we're looking to hold state legislators to a certain standard, related to the process here in the city. I can't wait to have those conversations, but this home rule can be impactful to dispatchers across the Commonwealth. And certainly, it's our job to make these positions as attractive as possible. And, and we do that through the bargaining process. But in the last round of negotiations, just to piggyback off of Lou Mandarini, our ability to bring a temporary reprieve of residency, to address the conversation of recruitment and retention was a game changer. And to Mr. Shackford's point, we are trending in the right direction, but there's still some work left to do.
Can I take a swing at that?
Yeah.
So I think, just to zoom out a little bit, I think that there's a larger point to be made here about your question, because the pension grouping is just a small part of a larger issue here about the fact that state law just really, and frankly, law across various states and federally, hasn't really caught up with the way the work has changed. I think that's a big part of it. I mean, the pension grouping is one thing, but when I get into doing this work, I mean, one of the things, to be able to negotiate, these agreements, you got to find out sort of everything and talk to everybody and find out what's going on. And, when I get into it, there was this derisive term from decades ago for the operations center called the rubber gun squad, because it's where they used to put police who couldn't be on the street anymore. Now, that was not a term I came up with, but it's one that I heard an awful lot when we started to negotiate this. And I think it sort of ignores or obscures the fact that there's been a tremendous amount of professionalization, technical training, and the nature of the work has changed significantly over the decades. And that's one of the things that we started to capture in our collective bargaining negotiations when we rewrote job descriptions and we changed, we did upgrades and those kind of things, is that capturing what the nature of the work is now versus the nature of the work from decades ago. And I'd venture to say on the pension grouping specifically, I think you had a situation where you had a lot of officers serving in this role, as I said, who weren't on the street anymore, who already had Group 4. So, I mean, I think that's part of the situation, is that the civilians that are in this, in some ways, the law just hasn't caught up. It hasn't caught up with the nature of what they do, the technical training they do, the significant amount of, background and work they have to do to even be able to do this job. So that's a piece of what we recognized in our collective bargaining work, and I think it's relevant to the question you asked.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Madam Chair.
Lou, we'll go to Councilor Flynn next. I'm giving 6 minutes to everyone. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, thank you to the city employees for the work that you are doing. I listened closely to the testimony, and it was very, very helpful. And want to especially say thank you to Melinda for your professionalism and the work that you are doing every day. And so just so the public is aware, and we obviously have the public watching on television, and I know some of your colleagues have mentioned it. So you could be working a very difficult shift for 7.5 hours, going into your 8th hour, and then someone will tell you, as you're planning to have Thanksgiving with your family, someone will tell you, oh, Melinda, by the way, you have to work another 8 hours. And that's not an option, because the work still has to get done. But that has a tremendous impact on a family. It has an impact on kids, especially. It has an impact on your spouse. And I know what it's like being away from my wife and kids for holidays, being in the military. But it's not pleasant. It's not fun. That's how marriages, in my opinion, marriages can break up that way. So it has a devastating impact on your family. I don't think we're really giving you or giving you going from 1 to 2, or I think it should go even higher. But I think you earned that based on your professionalism, based on your sacrifice for this city, for the residents of Boston. But just explain to me, and just generally speaking, what impact does it have on your colleagues and their families? I'm still really angry about forced overtime. I don't like it. I thought I heard you could work up to 18 hours. And I'm pretty angry about that. I can't imagine someone working 17 hours and then a major incident happens and you've been on your feet the whole time dealing with difficult situations, and if you make a mistake, there's consequences. But just want to see what your thoughts might be.
Well, I think that it's stressful. I mean, imagine sitting next to somebody for 8 to 16 to 18 hours due to operational needs. You're getting ready to go home, and then you're forced to sit there for another 8 to 10 hours. And you're sitting next to people who are disgruntled and muttering under their breath and complaining, and they're upset. It becomes a very it's now become like a toxic environment almost, because now you're surrounded by people who are not happy, they're miserable, you're missing Thanksgiving, you're missing Christmas, your kids don't understand, your families don't understand, and they want to know, why can't you just tell them that you have to go home? That's not something that we can do. So the impact that it's had on a lot of our colleagues, our coworkers, the morale can be extremely low. And it's not a morale that the average person is working in. The average person, they're working, they're going, and they're heading home. They don't think about work. We're dealing with stressful situations for those 8 to 16 hours, and you go home and you're still thinking about what happened to that child or what happened to that individual.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if anyone can speak on this. I've experienced these situations in my career, but can operator develop PTSD based on the years and service that they've worked for the city and the calls that they've made and the terrible conversations they've had with people under their worst day of their life. And, that also impacts your mental health as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I had a call one morning where there was an officer that was shot, Officer Sean Mirando. The call came in for a domestic, and the suspect had told the call taker, if officers were to show up, the police were called, he was going to shoot. So that was something that I had to let all the officers know. Make sure, be careful when you get there. He's making threats to shoot at officers once you get there. They get there, and it just hits, the chaos just hits. And the guys are screaming about how they're being shot at, right? So officers are being shot at, and at one point, all I hear is, Mel, he's shooting at us, right? That stays with you.
Right.
And I remember telling them, make sure you check yourselves, make sure you check each other, make sure that no one is hit. Make sure you're, next thing I know, he's yelling out, Mel, I've been shot. That stays with you. This has been, years now or whatever, but you've got these call takers who are dealing with people, victims, directly on the phone, somebody who's just been assaulted, someone who may have just been stabbed or shot. Those are voices, that's screaming. You don't forget that. That's something that stays with you forever. There are just calls that you just cannot delete. And I understand we have the stress team and, we have people that are there to talk to, but it doesn't get rid of that PTSD.
No, thank you, Melinda. And I know my time is up. I'll just add one final comment. And when I was there visiting, I saw this. But after a call like that, it's not like you can just say, hey, I need 45 minutes to unwind, to take a breath, to get some fresh air and have a glass of water. There might not be someone sitting next to you or a couple people next to you, operators as well. You're short-staffed already. It's not like you can just take an hour to collect your thoughts and get a little break for yourself before you go back to your assignment. But let me leave everybody with this one point. Everyone knows where I stand on this issue. But let's leave here and agree on this. No one should work 18 hours a day. Can we all agree on 18 hours a day is too much? Unhealthy for the dispatchers, unhealthy for the residents of Boston, unhealthy to your families. And let me also say, if you make a mistake, the city's not going to be there for you. The city will not be there for you if you make a mistake, even if you're working 17 hours a day. I'll be honest. I'll be direct. But why should we put these operators that are working hard and being professional, why should we put them in that position in the first place? It's unfair to them. Thank you, Madam Chair.
If I may.
Tom, go ahead.
Councilor Flynn, thank you for those statements. If I may say that, our partnerships at BPD, the sworn do have a pathway for peer support, and a lot of those services are covered under the budget of the Boston Police Department. I can tell you that our civilian workers also took a pathway for peer support, but they paid out of their own pockets. As it relates to these incidents that completely carry over, to our dispatchers and call takers, they collectively take care of each other, and they certainly finance it out of their own bank accounts.
Thank you, Tom.
That's something we'd like to address in the next round of bargaining.
Councilor Weber?
Chair, one of the original co-sponsors is, did you?
My apologies. Would you like to go next for questions? Okay. Councilor Weber, you're up next. And then Councilor Fitzgerald.
Sorry, Megan. I guess so. I guess Lou, can you explain how this dovetails with the executive order, or?
Yes. I think it's, if I can zoom out a little bit, because the executive order was just part of a whole suite of stuff we've done to improve the 911 Operations Center. That sort of came smack in the middle. Is it okay if I go a little broader on you?
Sure.
I know you're a man who likes information.
I guess I don't know about the man part, but I like information.
So as I had said in the opening statement, when we came in, we faced a lot of problems in 911. We had an enormous number. The numbers exactly, I'm going to represent them as best I can, but I think something like 48% of the budgeted positions in the call taker position were vacant, and something like 36% of the positions in the dispatcher position were vacant. So we had a smaller core of workers who were being asked to do an awful lot. That's where the mandatory overtime came from, and the sort of being forced to stay after your shift and all of that. So one of the things, we set out to do two things. We set out to remedy that problem, which is to say, how do we get more people in the budgeted positions so that we don't have to make people make these agonizing, awful choices. And then the second part of it was, how do we modernize the employment documents associated with this? So in other words, through collective bargaining, we did two things. We did the hard work of rewriting job descriptions and job specifications that hadn't been rewritten in about 25 to 30 years. So you had old job descriptions that didn't capture the full nature of what people did. So, in the process of doing that, we also provided significant upgrades to be associated with all the new duties that people had been doing for a very long time, but that hadn't been captured in their work. One of the other things we did, we went to the Residency Commission and sought a 3-year waiver under the ordinance for all of the call taker and dispatcher positions. We did something there that was new, which is that asked for a waiver for either the 3 years or until such time as we got 85% of the positions in both classifications filled. That's both the dispatcher and the call taker position. That has helped improve things. We still have not hit the 85%. We're nearly 3 years downstream now. But then other things we did in collective bargaining were we provided retention bonuses, a $10,000 retention bonus at 4 different points if people stayed. So they were like spaced out by 6 months. So 2022, early 23, late 23, early 24. Bonuses for people who had recently quit to come back and rejoin the Boston 911 Operations Center. Bonuses for folks that spoke foreign languages. People that would speak up. That was the foreign languages in Boston by population, top 10. We provided that. And then in the bargaining with the Superior Officers Federation, this is another major thing we did. So there is civilian leadership of the 911 Operations Center, but there are also sworn personnel that are above it. One of the things that we negotiated in the 2023 or early 24 package with the Superior Officers Federation was to get some of those positions out of the 911 Operations Center so that we could not only use those superior officers for other functions, but create a career pathway for call takers and dispatchers to advance. So in other words, you don't have to spend your entire career doing this. You could actually become part of the leadership of the civilian leadership of 911. So that's a long way of answering your question, because smack in the middle of all that, we use the opportunity through an executive order to designate these folks becoming first responders. And that was a step that the mayor took in anticipation or in hope for a change in the state law, recognizing that too, that these folks are first responders, as are police, fire, EMTs. They serve that function. So that's a long way of answering your question.
I'll take it. Do I have any more time? Yes, I know Tom and I spoke about how the job has changed. I guess Melinda, if you My sense is there's a lot more technology to deal with. Can you just talk about what it was like when you first started, a couple years ago, maybe in the 20s, but and what it's like now in terms of handling these calls?
Well, we went from 2 to 3 screens to 6. So now you're responsible for monitoring, your incoming calls, your active calls, your pending calls. You're responsible for checking plates. You're responsible for running people. You're responsible for the ShotSpotter activations, and making sure that all of this information, that you're paying attention to everything, and making sure that all of that information gets out. Because if it doesn't, you've got kind of a domino effect on how it's going to affect the officers in the community, right? So the responsibility has grown a lot, and like Mike said earlier, we don't have space to make mistakes. Making a mistake can be a critical one, so it has changed a lot over the years.
I'm sorry, was that okay?
Tom. If I may just piggyback off of that, so the app-based software that our dispatchers and call takers need to be proficient on is constantly evolving, and there's a continuing ed component annually, and they have to do so many hours related to these soft-based apps. And video to text to 911 is already launched and for our state police dispatch. So I would imagine that it will be coming to municipalities quickly, and that's another app base that our folks are going to have to remain proficient on. And I would say with that, our dispatchers will now be called into court as expert witnesses related to what they saw, they heard, through video to text to 911. So that would bring a whole nother component and an additional conversation on behalf of duties, roles, and responsibilities for dispatchers.
I would just finish with a comment, not a question, Chair. Melinda, you mentioned how crime rates have gone down, but people are still calling 911. People still have accidents and heart attacks and all kinds of other emergencies that they rely on our dispatchers for. So I just want to thank you for everything you've done for our residents, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Councilor Weber, Councilor Worrell.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your service, especially during some of the most traumatic experiences during some of our residents' lives. I just want to thank you for your service. Something that's been brought up a couple times amongst my colleagues is the 8 hours and the 18-hour work days. How many of our 911 call takers, how many of them are actually working 18 hours, let's say on a monthly basis? How often are people actually working 18 hours?
18 hours is happening, but it's not happening every week. It's happening. It's happening not, I want to say not frequently, but it is happening.
But it is happening.
We have, many of our workers are working upwards of 16 hours, 5 days a week, 4 or 5 days a week, and that goes for the entire operation. There isn't anyone that isn't working more than 8 hours any single day in a week.
Awesome. All right, thank you. And then, Lou, you spoke to a few of the bonuses. There's a retention bonus, a bonus to bring people back to the job, and then a bonus for the foreign language. How effective, and then the dollar amount? I know in the past, some of the CBAs, $250. Can you elaborate a little bit more on how effective the bonuses have been, and then can you give us a dollar amount for each of these bonuses?
Yeah. So I don't have the numbers in front of me in terms of the positions that are in budgeted positions that are now filled with people that weren't filled before. And I think it's also a little bit difficult to strip it out because, as I said, we did the bonuses, but we also did, a temporary residency waiver. So I don't think you can strip out any one thing and say that's the silver bullet that made this better. I do know from what the union has communicated to me and what the department has communicated to me is that the crisis that existed in the summer of 2022, it is not as pressing a situation as it was then. All of the stuff that we've done has made a difference. But to specifically answer your question, one of the biggest bonus that we did was a $10,000 bonus, and it was paid in $2,500 increments. And so it was a retention bonus. And so to qualify for future installments of it, you had to stay employed for a certain amount of time. So there was that. There were a couple of shift differentials that, we did for folks that were fluent in other languages. So that was $50 per week. We have a shift differential for first half folks. That's the 4 to midnight shift. So that was an additional $75 a week. Let me see. What else do we have in my document here? I think that mostly captures the financial pieces of it. The upgrades were fairly significant because we rewrote job descriptions basically from scratch. I mean, we had really old job descriptions. So I've got the classification, the classifications, but I don't have in front of me what that equates to in terms of salary, but we'll be glad to share that after the hearing with you.
Yeah, we'd love that. I was kind of wanted to compare the bonuses versus the new pay rate. Most of my other questions have been asked, going through my notes that my team member took here. So most of my colleagues have asked my questions, but very supportive and looking forward to continuing this conversation. Thank you, Chair.
Councilor Worrell, Councilor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, everybody, for being here today. A very important hearing we're having. A lot of questions, a lot of great questions were asked, but I do have some more maybe technical, procedural ones. I know the answer to this, but where are you guys located?
We work at 1199 Tremont Street, 1 Schroeder Plaza in Roxbury,
And
Boston Police Headquarters.
Boston Police Headquarters. And so what retirement group is the majority of folks who work in that building, would you say?
Are we talking sworn or are we talking civilian?
And the majority of the folks there. I would imagine that many folks there are in.
Well, the sworn are in Group 4 and the civilians are in Group 1.
Okay, thank you. And we're looking to make sure that you guys would like to be in Group 2.
Correct.
Correct, right? What is the process for hiring? What does this process entail? For instance, like how long is it before, I know like an application in to the testing that you would have to, the test you have to take until you are actually on the job? What does the hiring process look like and the training that goes along with that?
The hiring process is archaic. And we've said this for many years now, that it could take up to 6 months to get someone in the door before training even begins. It takes too long.
Why do you think that is?
It could be, I believe we're doing too many things at once. Okay. We're trying to process many police class, which is priority, and I understand that. But there have been opportunities where they could have expedited hiring, and I don't believe the department did their job. I think they failed.
Okay.
And I'm sorry to bring it back to the language portion of our agreement. That was a one-time deal. They offered the language test once, and we've had some hires come in who speak multiple languages who have not been tested since. I believe that the city, we had a great partnership with that deal. It works out great, but I believe that management with the police department has failed when it comes to that deal. They've dropped the ball on hiring. They've dropped the ball on the language portion of it, and we've hired very few people who have already worked there who would need minimal training to come back. In fact, 3 of those employees, I have personally tried to get them to get a typing test with no results. I think it's an epic breakdown.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and that's good to know. I've actually talked to some folks that are in the hiring process that would like to be a 911 operator, and they said, I haven't gotten calls back in weeks, or I take the test, and then some, for whatever reason, did well, but still haven't heard. And so when we hear of us being shorthanded in terms of staff, and you know that there are people out there that are capable, willing, and have scored well enough to be hired, I feel like we're probably just leaving some people on the bench that should be up there.
Yeah, I believe, and I'm going to just say this because I know I've said this in a meeting with Superintendent Doughton before. We went in 11 months where there was nobody hired during this agreement.
Yeah.
11 months. We didn't hire a single person. We hired someone in January, and then December rolled around, and the only hire we had was an office manager, and there was nothing in between.
Yeah.
And as the unit president, I've been screaming about hiring. We need bodies because once the summer comes, people want to take their vacations. They want to spend time with their family. And the summer is when it gets busiest in the city.
Right.
You know, your kids are out of school. They're out. That's when the gun violence begins. And we need bodies. And I've been screaming that we've needed bodies for upwards of 5 years. And I think that although this agreement is great, and I think it's been great for retention, I do not believe that the police department has done their job when it comes to hiring. And I believe that is the breakdown.
Gotcha.
We will continue to forge our partnerships with BPD, and we'll address this in the next round of bargaining.
Great. Thank you, Tom. How many missed calls would you think happen, say, I don't know if it's monthly, annually, whatever stat you guys know of the most, but in terms of, I remember talking to folks about how many are missed, and it not due to any lack of hard work by any means, right? But just the volume of calls with the number of bodies that you have at any one given time answering these calls, that some 911 calls could go unanswered at a time. And that is the last resort for any constituent in the city. I don't know if you guys have any of those numbers, but just to kind of highlight the need for the more bodies and the importance of having it on there.
I can't speak to the actual numbers, but we have backup plans in place. If we don't take our calls, another municipality will take our calls. Like our calls if the police department doesn't answer the call, it gets dumped to the fire department, who then answers it.
Yep.
But they're not trained like us. They're not trained to answer the questions that we're trained to ask. Yep. They're not getting suspect information on a shooting. That's not something that they're trained to get.
Understood.
That's something that we're trained to get. And we need to bump up our numbers in order to make sure that no one else is taking our calls.
And how many people are in the process now, do you think, to be hired? Do you know how many people are sort of awaiting a call, or at least in the process of being trained or have taken the test or are submitting applications?
I don't know the exact numbers. I believe that's a question better suited for Superintendent Doughton.
Great. Superintendent, would you have any idea?
Yes, we just did a hiring day, so I believe there's 3 in the pipeline for dispatchers that they did interviews for that are in the process for hiring at the moment.
So 3 in the pipeline. Okay, thank you very much. I believe that's my time. Thank you very much, Chair. Appreciate you for all the work you guys do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I also have a few technical questions, just starting from the baseline, and thank you, because this has been really informative. How many individuals currently work as 911 call takers and dispatchers at this moment in time? This could be for
I
superintendent.
believe we have like 94, maybe just somewhere roughly hovering around 100 bodies in the
Okay.
operations division.
Okay, with hopefully 3 in the pipeline. I think this is for Superintendent Doughton, but what is the average payroll for an employee? What's the average salary?
I don't have the average salary for that particular.
Okay. Do we have an estimated payroll for last fiscal year?
Yes, that's something I could provide afterwards.
Okay, and then Council President says that she has it. Do you want to?
Yeah, I'm happy to, just based on unless someone has the numbers, the back of the math that we did is covered payroll is $7,990,000, so basically $8 million. And the calculation of that was, as Michael stated, 94 employees times a base pay of $85,000 a year. So, again, this back of the napkin math, I'm sure there's like overtime and other things to calculate, but for a total of approximately $8 million.
All right, thank you so much. How many folks, what's the average age of employees and average year of service? And what's the number of folks that we anticipate are going to be retiring in the next 5 years?
I don't have those numbers at the moment, but I can get them.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we have an approximate number between those who identify as male and female? The gender makeup, demographic?
We can pull the data for that.
Okay. And then on average, how how many hours are both call takers and dispatchers working per week?
I could provide that data after. I don't have that information in front of me.
Okay, can anybody here answer that? Doesn't have to be a scientific number, but just anecdotally what you're seeing.
We're working probably up to 75 hours a week.
Okay.
Some up to upwards of 90.
Okay. And overtime was already asked by my colleagues. Staffing shortages have already been asked. Are you mandated to take breaks as well?
We
What
take
about-
breaks, but we're not mandated to take breaks, no.
Okay, but you are mandated to take overtime.
We are mandated to take
Okay.
overtime.
Have you, and maybe this is for SEIU 888, are there any public health reports that are able to describe the impacts on call takers or dispatchers as it relates to stress or PTSD, anything that you've seen that we could take a look at? I just tried to Google right now, but there was nothing that I think had the jurisdiction of Boston, but anything that you can point us to?
I'm sorry, I read something, this was years ago, and I would have to myself Google it and find it, something along the lines of 2 out of every 10 suffered from PTSD. 2 out of every 10 suffered from PTSD is what I read.
Okay.
And I'll try to find that and forward it.
But I can certainly bounce back with our peer support team and give you some more data related to that.
That would be great. I would appreciate that. The reason why I asked about the gender makeup too is because I did have somebody who was pregnant last year and who, they were mandated to take overtime and is I'm going to try to maintain her anonymity as best as I can, but she was mandated to take overtime. It's a very stressful job. We had already talked about the cortisol and the effects of that on the mother and the child. Are there any exemptions or special accommodations that are provided to specifically pregnant women who are who are dispatchers or call takers?
Not by the collective bargaining agreement.
No, we've had employees that have had heart procedures and have come back after having heart procedures, and their first day back, they're at the top of the order list because they hadn't been there for a while and have gotten ordered their first day back.
Multiple times, back-to-back days.
Okay. I guess when we do this reclassification, what sort of additional benefits would they get if they, or would they get any benefits based on this? Folks who have just come back from heart surgery or pregnant individuals. Is there anything we can do in addition to that, or maybe Lou, anything that the mayor's office has done as it relates to this?
Well, I mean, these folks are covered by the same leave policy that other bargaining units have incorporated into their collective bargaining agreements. So, but, this is obviously a subject of bargaining. So if the union wants to discuss it in the next round of negotiations, we're always listening.
Okay, thank you. I had to ask that question because it impacted a resident of District 1. I think that's it for me. I'll pass it to the lead sponsor for any additional questions that she may have. Councilor Louis-Jean.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for those questions. I want to thank, I think it was both Tom and maybe Lou talked about the career pathways for call takers and dispatchers, and I think it was an important part of the bargaining and the reform. I heard that time and time and time again about the need to civilianize the supervisory roles and to have a pathway. So I want to thank the work of your union in really fighting for that and making that happen, and want to make sure that we see that happen in implementation and in execution as well with your continued leadership. So I want to thank you for that. And I also want to thank you and George and for all the work in helping to draft the language here. One of the things that we want to make abundantly clear is that our language in the petition is inclusive of call takers. And so that's an addition that we'd be looking to make to clarify. But just for the benefit of all of those who are listening and for everyone here, if you could, someone could, I don't know if it's Melinda or Robert or anyone, talk about the distinction, the work that a call taker does compared to the work that a dispatcher does.
So with the call takers, it all starts there. People, like I said before, people are called. the city residents are calling in distress, and they're looking for assistance. So a lot of people don't call 911 when they're in a good mood. They're calling because they need help.
Right.
And they're calling, they're yelling, they're screaming, and our call takers are the people who have to try to calm the callers. You have to calm these people down. You have to try to figure out where they are. You have to try to figure out what type of assistance they need. So their job is just as critical as the dispatchers, because they're gathering all of that information for us. By the time it gets to us, we have to decipher, what kind of service we're sending out, as far as like getting the police out, and making sure that the people get the assistance, get the police response. The responsibility is a little bit different, but the stress level is, I would say, just about the same.
Is there a call taker to dispatcher pipeline?
No, we sit right next to each other. Everyone's in the same room. So once they enter the information, we automatically just get the information, but they do have access to come over and, we go back and forth with them, talking or asking questions. But we can, sitting in the dispatcher area, you can hear what's going on over on the call taker side. We can hear the excitement or, the chaos or whatever it is that they're dealing with on their end.
Thank you. And then, Michael, when you were talking about the staffing shortages and the HR backlog, things that we've heard repeatedly, one of the things that I remember hearing as well is that you lose so many people in the process because it takes so long. So by the time that they become, they're maybe brought in, maybe they end up leaving for another job that got back to them quicker, or that there's actually a pipeline of people who, who might apply for the job of a call taker or dispatcher, but actually want to enroll in BPD as a police officer. Is that something that you see on regularly or with any regularity?
I'm sure we're losing people just due to the sheer fact that it takes forever for them to hire. And people are working because they need to work. They need to put food on their table. And they're going to take whatever job that they can get. I'm sure not that they're throwing out a net of applications elsewhere, and it's whoever calls them first. I think that we're losing competent candidates because we take too long.
And have you seen that pipeline of people from call takers or dispatchers to BP to sworn officers?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Have you seen call takers or dispatchers who then apply to be police officers, or is that happening with any sort of frequency or regularity? Is that something that you're seeing?
That happens. It's not a large scale, but it is happening.
Scale. Okay. I think those are my questions. Again, I'm disappointed that it's taken this long for this to happen, and I hope that it happens. It seems like, if we need to be the first test case of moving from Group 1 to Group 2, I hope that that's something that we can make happen for the right reclassification of the work that you do that is demonstrative of the duress and the stress and the amount of responsibility that you are under. And so I await the administration to get back to us with those numbers. My back of the napkin math says about maybe a $3 million addition, but I know that there's more math and numbers that we probably don't fully have access to that you all will take some time and send it over to us, and then hopefully we'll be able to pass this on the council with making sure very clearly that we are including call takers in the language. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here and for your advocacy, and I'm just really proud that I get to work alongside all of you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Related to the last paragraph of the home rule, we under the CMR, we believe that call takers are listed in that under the CMR. But thank you specifically for we want to make sure that we encompass call takers in that language as well, and be as specific on what the universe looks like for BPD operations.
Thank you, and I agree with you. I think my office and our legal counsel reviewed it and we don't want any reason for this to be sent down. And I think the language in the CMR, also we have it in front of us, is correct. This is just belt and suspenders. So,
thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. I'm also supportive of those small changes. Looking forward to enshrining this napkin in the city archives, wherever it is. Councilor Flynn, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and again, want to say thank you to the administration, to city officials, but especially say thank you to Local 888 for their important leadership. Superintendent Doughton, thank you for being with us as well. Superintendent, I know it was discussed frequently about the overtime, and before I get to that question, how many 911 dispatchers work on a particular shift?
Do you mean the total number per day?
Yeah, say for an 8-hour shift, how many dispatchers would you have, and would that change depending on the time of the shift, whether it's the midnight to 8 or the 8 to 4 or however they work it? But what would the ballpark figure be?
I think you might have to get that from Mike or Melinda, because I don't actually work in the operation, so I'm not sure if it changes per shift.
Okay.
Dispatchers, we have seven minimum dispatchers that work days, 8 to 4, 7 who work first half, 4 to midnight, and the minimum on the overnight shift, the last half, is 6. They roll with 6 dispatchers.
Okay. And someone mentioned earlier that they're not working 40 hours a week. Generally, they're working between 70 and 80 hours a week.
Yeah, I would go out on a limb and tell you that there is not one employee up there who's working 40 hours.
Yeah. So they're almost working 16 hours straight for 5 days a week.
Yeah, there are people that are doing that.
I'm still concerned about that. Now, what happens when someone has a medical appointment that they need to be at? They need to take their spouse to a medical appointment. They need to take their child to a medical appointment. Maybe the child has an emergency, unforeseen emergency.
That becomes our problem and not theirs.
So, okay. And I want to go back to my question that I asked earlier, and I think we all agreed that 18 hours should never be allowed. But could someone let me know if someone does work 18-hour shifts? I do want that on the record, that it's very unhealthy for that person to work 18 hours straight. It's unhealthy for the residents of Boston. But can we make a commitment that it will not happen, and if it does happen, that the City Council will be notified?
I'd be glad to do that as a representative of the unit, Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Neil. Appreciate that. That was the first conversation I had with the police commissioner when he became police commissioner, when police officers were working 18-hour shifts. And that's what I said to the police commissioner. I think it's very unhealthy for a police officer to work 18 hours. It's unfair to that police officer. It's unfair to the dispatcher, the 911 dispatcher. I don't like to set them up for failure. And that's what we're doing if we put people consistently working 16-hour days.
We just had a dispatcher work 18 hours on Saturday, July 12th, which is only a couple weeks ago.
Right. Well, Lou, you know how I feel about that. I think you probably feel the same way about it as well. You know how unhealthy that is. But what can we do to solve that? But why do we put people in that position knowing that it's unhealthy? And we know that we need bodies in there, but 18 hours a day, I can't support that, Lou.
Councilor, I understand. We've thrown a tremendous amount at this, and I actually think the situation has improved considerably from 2022. I'm not sure that's really been reflected as much as it should be in the record of this hearing, but I think we've got a lot more people in the seats, but we're dealing with a situation here that we've inherited that developed over the course of decades. This is not something that dropped out of the sky. This is not something that just happened in November of 2021. We're cleaning up a situation that was allowed to develop over a long time. So it's not a situation that we get out of immediately. I understand the position you take. I understand it completely. It is a work in progress, and it is one that we've thrown a tremendous amount of effort and resources at, and we're going to continue to do that.
To second that, I will say that this is night and day from what it was like. But again, we're not where we need to be. We need to keep moving. We need to move the ball forward.
And I know we're here, thank you, gentlemen, and I know we're here for advocating for a change from Group 1 to Group 2. I certainly support that. I think it should go from Group 1 to Group 4 if I were in charge. But I just want to go back because I think since we have this opportunity, we have to address the working conditions that have been highlighted here. And 16-hour days, 18-hour days. I've done that on Navy ships in the middle of the Persian Gulf at midnight, working 18 hours a shift and carrying a weapon. Very, very unhealthy. So I do want to ask that my colleagues on the City Council be notified if someone is working over 16 hours a day, because I think the responsibility should be on the City Council to work on this issue, because we can't not get involved when we know our neighbors are working these types of hours in unhealthy professional environments. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilor Flynn, Councilor Worrell.
Tom, you mentioned the peer-to-peer group. Can you expand on that a little bit more? Are there any resources coming to that group or that initiative? Just wanted to hear more about it.
So the peer support program was created by our very own civilian workers at BPD. So, and they were essentially, to keep it afloat, they were paying for resources out of their own pocket. Mike Shackford is a member of the peer support team, and they meet pretty regularly at our Union Hall in Braintree in the conference room in the back. And but yeah, I mean, we ultimately, what I'd like to see in the next round of bargaining, I would like to have a discussion on placing some guidelines and some avenues and some resources into the civilian peer support team where they don't have to pay, right, out of pocket.
Right. No, it sounds like it's needed, because it sounds like the call takers and dispatchers have identified a gap that is very much needed due to the calls that they're taking in. So I do advocate for it. I think it's something that should be addressed, just because of the stress levels that the call takers and dispatchers are taking on. The other question I have is around the onboarding. How often are there classes, and then how many seats per class? I'm not even sure if that's how it works, but can you just walk me through the process? Are classes, twice a year? How often, and then how many seats are available in each class?
Counselor, I'm not so sure that there are classes, but Mike, you might be able to.
We can hire at any point in time. We can train whomever, whenever, as long as we have the trainers available to train. When it comes to classroom hours, we are initial employees are sent out for a 40-hour APCO class.
Right. So I got a quick question. So like BPD, they'll have, 2 classes. So there's no schedule.
There is no class schedule like in a recruit academy class.
Right. No. Okay.
We just
as they come in, we'll train.
Yeah. We have, obviously we can't train 200 people.
Right.
We don't have the capacity to train 200 people, but we can train. We can train at the same time enough that would help us alleviate the gap between what we're dealing with now.
Okay. All right. No further questions. Thank you.
Worrell, Councilor Weber.
Yeah, sorry, just following up on, I think, Council President Louis Jen's, the minor changes. I just want to make sure I know what's going on. So Tom, like by including the language referring to the certified by the state 911 department as certified telecommunicators as defined by the CMR, that's to include the call takers?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, because the way I read it is that just refers to communication chiefs. Is the communication chiefs the same thing, or is
Actually, I had our inside attorneys take a look at, to validate, the language that we were using for the home rule petition, and they agreed that call takers are under that CMR, and it's listed in the last paragraph of the home rule.
Yeah, just because the way I read it, we would be including all full-time dispatchers, that's one group, dispatch supervisors, another group, and then communication center directors or communication chiefs certified by the state under the CMR. So I think that only refers to the communication chiefs, who I don't even know if they get certified by the state on the CMR. I think you mean, it sort of seems like what you want to say is all full-time dispatchers, dispatch supervisors, anyone who's certified by the state as a telecommunicator under the CMR, and then the directors and chiefs after that.
I didn't want to leave any interpretation, left to discussion. I wanted, all call takers and dispatchers under BPD operations to be covered. But I think that it is broader language related to the state police and the emergency 911 folks that we provide representation for too.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't know, Council President, is this the issue you're going to work on, or?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Through the chair, that's the reason why we're just adding it, just for 100% clarity, call takers.
Sorry, so but the call taker, one way to refer to a call taker is as a communication chief who is certified. They're communication chiefs,
As a
the call takers?
telecommunicator.
Yeah, no, okay, and they're also, if I said communication chief, you would think call taker. I just want to make sure it's not just the supervisors of the call takers.
I think that language is relevant to the state police and emergency 911 career ladders that exist.
Okay.
So we wanted to encompass all of BPD operations as well as the other dispatchers that we represent in the Commonwealth.
Okay. Sounds good. And in terms of we're talking about this length of shifts, mandatory overtime. I don't know if we can follow up on that point. But in terms of mandatory overtime, are people working? So if we have 7 people on in the morning shift and 7 in the afternoon, evening, and 6 overnight, and somebody's working 2.5 shifts, are there other people? Are they still having? Are they filling in for people who aren't showing, who aren't able to make the afternoon shift? Or would you go from, if someone who worked in the morning, could they be working in the afternoon? You'd have 8, let's say, instead of 7, or
No, they don't. We don't hire overtime for an overage. We're never going over the 7 unless we have that staffed. So if they're hiring to the minimum, which is 7.
Okay, so if we're looking, let's say, so if you had 20 during a 24-hour period, right, did I get it right? 7 in the first shift, 7 in the second, 6 in the third?
Yeah, that's minimum staffing.
Okay,
What we're supposed to
so you might have more.
We don't have more.
Okay.
I believe the number is 41 total. We should have 41 total, and we come very short of that. Obviously, we're not at the 85% yet, but yeah.
Okay.
But not only, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Melinda?
Not only that, I know what you're saying as far as, with the 7, 7, and 6, and if people are doing doubles, is everything getting filled? And they're not. There are nights where our overnight shift, they're working with 5 people because now you've already got people who are working on doubles, and they're not able, there's nobody there to order because you have people that are already on doubles, and then people aren't answering their phones to come in because they're afraid that they're going to get ordered for another shift if they did come in. And that happens a lot, especially on our Fridays and Saturday nights where our overnight shifts, they end up with 5 people. So now you're working 5 people and, you're not really getting breaks. You don't have the 2 break people to kind of help you out there. So you have to listen up for one another.
Yeah, 5 people means no breaks.
I guess, so what does it mean to have a minimum, and then what's the
7
impact
minimum
on-
allows 2 people to give sufficient breaks throughout the tour.
But you said 6 is the minimum overnight, and if
6 is the minimum.
if we have
overnight.
5 and we're below the minimum.
5 districts, 1 break person.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
5 channels, one break person.
Okay.
My personal opinion is I think it should be 7 across the board, but somewhere along the line, they deemed that 6 was the minimum staffing for the overnight shift.
Okay. And Tom, would that be a subject of bargaining in the next contract?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
I have one last question, and then happy to do another round if folks have outstanding questions. So we know that Group 1 members retire later and accrue benefits more slowly. Group 2 members retire slightly earlier with enhanced benefits, and then Group 4 members, we've already kind of established who's who here, but they are primarily in hazardous public safety roles and retire the earliest and receive the most generous pension accruals. You had mentioned something about 16%. Can you just repeat that for us? And if that is something that is standard among call takers and dispatchers?
After being there for 24 years, I started with the police department at 20. I had just turned 22, just turned 46. And if I were forced to retire today or tomorrow, after 24 years of service to the department and to the city, I would only walk away with 16% of my pension, of my retirement.
And then at what percentage are folks retiring now?
We've got people that have retired. I don't know what the numbers are exactly, but we've had people that have been there for 35 plus years, going on to 40 years, and have not made that 80% and have left because of medical conditions or circumstances with their families and have been forced to retire before hitting that 80%.
Okay. To Lou, how would you, and this is my last question, just thinking about how this reclassification may affect existing collective bargaining agreements, and you're getting the finances and the numbers and all of that, and that should be coming down the pike in the next couple of weeks, we think?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. What sort of, is there anything that you can talk about in terms of financial implications that might...
With respect to the valuation of the pension liability?
Valuation, but then also for future negotiations?
No,
Okay.
not now. We have a contract that goes with these folks until 2027. So we'll start bargaining in advance of that because, our goal is to have a contract done when a contract expires. So, I think that's a 2026 probably a situation. But as I sit here and talk to you now, I do not.
All right.
Counselor, as it relates to specific job titles that are already in Group 2 in the city of Boston, to my estimation, it is fire signal operators and electricians. And I do agree with you, Counselor Flynn, that I would love to take a pathway for Group 4. I really would. But as it relates to the state and Paratrac, there's a cost with everything. And realistically, we thought as an organization that we would tackle 2. And then if we continue to get more advancements in the Commonwealth, then we can certainly revisit 4.
Thank you. And what was you said fire signal operators, and what was the second one?
Electricians?
Okay, great. Thank you. That's it for me. Do any of my colleagues have any additional questions? Jen?
Thank you. And I think Council Weber, I think I understood, like, maybe a comma will help with the clarity of some of the questions that you were asking. But that makes sense. And I want to thank you, Tom, for explaining that. Like, I think there's no reason why the work that you do, when Melinda was explaining the level of duress and the stress, first responders, the other first responders in the building are group 4, but understanding that there's no homo petition that has been successful yet. And like, we can't do things on our own. And if we could do things on our own, we'd love to do group 4. Absolutely. Because that's what everyone deserves, right? You deserve to retire with dignity. But seeing as group 2 hasn't even been successful yet, would love to see where we get there. And thank you for drafting it in that way so that we can see where we get there. But you all do yeoman's work. Really grateful for you every single day. Madam Chair, I won't need a closing because this is my closing, but just want to say thank you, and it's just been an honor to work with all of you in getting this homo petition to where it is, and in making just the few changes that we need to make sure that everyone is abundantly clear that we are including call takers. And our legal counsel has just had a few questions in terms of some stylistic sort of how we usually send homo petitions up, so we may be in just a little bit more back and forth, but and we will wait to get the actuarial numbers from Lou in his shop, just so that everybody knows, rather than my napkin that is now going to be in the Library of Congress. Math that we did, and thank you to my policy director, Jesse, who really helped to do a lot of that math. But just want to thank you, and we look forward to getting this passed on the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Council Flynn, do you have anything? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the Council President for including me on this as an original co-sponsor. Let me ask, and I'm looking forward to supporting this, and I'm also looking forward to, when it does go up to the State House, I want to go up there with and talk to my colleagues that I'm friendly with and advocate for this passage up there. But let me ask a question. One of the issues I've been active on in 8 years is language and communication access. It's an important issue to me because it's an important issue to my constituents, especially in Chinatown. Many of them, or most of them, I should say, especially the elderly people, speak Cantonese. If there are 6 or 7 911 dispatches on at a particular shift, are we certain that there's one that speaks Cantonese at all times?
No.
No.
No. Tell me the procedure when someone, when a call comes in and it's from a resident that speaks Cantonese, maybe very, very limited English. What is the procedure when we don't have a Cantonese speaker on the other line?
But that call taker would then try to get an interpreter through the language line. Then they would talk to someone and interpret through them.
Okay. Same, and also I have a large Spanish-speaking community. Same with the Spanish-speaking dispatches. Do we always have, is there someone that speaks Spanish on one of those 6 or 7 positions at all times?
We have a good portion of Spanish-speaking people, but there have been times when we don't have one that speaks Spanish.
Okay. Do we actively recruit a Spanish-speaking person to fill a position? I know we have challenges recruiting, but do we specifically try to hire Spanish speakers?
I believe there's been attempts to hire people who speak multiple languages, especially languages that we need in the city, but I believe maybe Superintendent Doughton could answer that question.
Superintendent, do you have any comments on that?
I know that we have done some work around trying to hire people with different languages, so that is something that we are still currently working on.
Okay. I know a small percentage of people speak Cantonese, but a large population speaks it in my district, so that's why it's important to me. But I don't necessarily like the system where if there isn't someone that speaks Cantonese, that we're going to find an interpreter to translate an important call that this resident has relating, maybe it's about her husband or a spouse, a child, some type of an emergency that happened to them. So I'm always concerned about that, and I do need to advocate for my constituents that speak Cantonese and Spanish. But I'd like for us to have a better system in place to, again, I know the dispatchers are doing tremendous work, and it's not your responsibility, but for the senior leadership, I would like to have a better system of how we are able to communicate with the Cantonese speaker instead of trying to get a interpreter on the phone. I know how challenging it is to get an interpreter on the phone as well. I've used them. But Superintendent, do you have any thoughts or recommendations? Because this is kind of an important issue for me.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Do you have any thoughts or recommendations on how we can streamline the process of calls that come in to 911 if it's a Cantonese speaking person?
Not at the moment. I mean, obviously we have the language line, but it's always important to have different staff on board that speaks different languages. But, we can try to do a better job of reaching out during recruitments to try to see if we can try to hire for particular languages.
Okay. When was the last time we had someone that spoke Cantonese, that was an employee that was in the dispatch operations system?
I don't have any historical on that personally, so I'd have to find out and see what historically they've had in the past.
If I may, can I just make and I just want to thank my colleague for his advocacy on language access. Can we just have a breakdown of how many folks speak what languages?
Yes, we can provide that afterwards.
Okay, thank you so much. And I apologize, Councilor Flynn. I had given 2 minutes, so
No,
if there's any other questions that you want to ask, feel free.
No,
One more, I guess.
Madam Chair, you've been more than fair to me with your time, so I have no further questions. I want to say thank you to the panelists that are here.
Thank you. Councilor Worrell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And no further questions. Just want to thank you for your service, and also thank you for bringing this to us, and looking forward to working with my colleagues to get this passed. And as many have already said, it's all about progress and moving forward, so happy to take this first step forward. Thank you.
Thank you for your co-sponsorship. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman,
Councilor Weber?
as well as the rest of the panel.
Thank you. I think 2 quick questions for Lou. So the home rule it just impacts retirement benefits? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. And then, I think the answer is yes. And then how would this work if we passed in terms of does Melinda goes from one group, if she retires the day before it passes, she's in one group, and then after, does it get applied retroactively? How does it play out?
It's my understanding that when you're classified in one group, and that's the group in which you retire. So I don't think it makes that distinction between the fact that she's been here for 24 years and she'll only be in, if this passes, she'll only be in group 2 for 2 days. I don't think that's how that works. I think it's where you are when you retire is how it works.
Okay, yeah, so whatever, on the, so if this passes, then anyone who retires after that passage would be in group 2.
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions. I think I'll just wrap this up with closing remarks. I think we've gotten some closing remarks from my colleagues, so we'll end it here and then go to public testimony. But just really grateful for your perspective, for the information that we've received today. It's clear that first responders are critical to the health and wellness of our city, and are going through some of the most stressful and traumatic moments in our city every single day. And so I think that this is a good step in the right direction to provide them the pension that they deserve and the justice that they deserve because they're going through this every single day. So really look forward to passing this. I think there are, as the council president mentioned, some stylistic maybe amendments that we could make, but overall the spirit and intent of the legislation will remain the same. I will leave it there and ask if there's anybody that signed up for public testimony virtually. No, nobody in the audience either? Okay. So I'm more than happy to close this out if anybody wants to provide any closing remarks. I think we're good on that. Okay.
Madam Chair,
go ahead.
just to say a couple of quick things in the purview of representation of these workers. That from the direction of the Mayor's office and the labor advisor, senior advisor of labor, Mandarini, and the chief labor counsel at the BPD, a fellow named John Wilton, he's with us in the gallery today, that they've demonstrated fairness in contract negotiations towards us, and that we're appreciative of that as Local 888, SCIU Local 888. You've heard from the people that are actually doing the work, the first responders, and the duties that they fulfill daily. The technology, you've talked about, the multiple screens, and you've talked about the what may be some type of visibility where they're actually seeing what's going on the street, which could add, being additional factors related to the stress that they're experiencing as a worker. So these hard working, passionate, proficient employees of the BPD that are first responders, for lack of a better term, they may be getting a high level of expertise at a job that's waning, and it's not quite the job that it was once considered to be. There was one fellow who was going to be here to testify today. He's a BPD dispatcher. His name's Angel Negron. Angel was in the employment of the department. He suffered an actual stroke, and then he was forced out, but luckily he's recovered almost fully, and he's going to come actually back to work at the BPD to just serve as a reminder of how the job can actually take a toll. Unit President Michael Shagford spoke about life expectancy and, that we all know about the divorce rate over there and some, the attrition of mental health under this job. So Local 888 would like to respectfully request that the City Council, the subcommittee, and then the City Council and further meetings respectfully, support these workers, and we know what your intentions are and the commitment to get them to the next level of pension reform.
We really appreciate the robust discussion today, and we thank you, Local 888, on behalf of your partnership as well. We look forward to all opportunities for the future, and we wish to remain a partner to all of the city councilors as well as the mayor of Boston. Thank you.
Thank you, and I just want to underscore and thank 888 for your partnership, and thank you for uplifting. Was it Angel's story? Wishing him a speedy recovery and grateful that he's feeling better. But you have our commitment that we will move this forward as expeditiously as we can, but we'll continue that partnership with you. Okay. And with that, this hearing, and thank everybody for their participation. With that, this docket 1277, this hearing is now adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.